Let me make one.
I was going to say, how could you not? Yeah.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Rita Brown. We're having a new member class, new member orientation tomorrow from 5 p.m. to 7. And anyone who is an older member that wants to come is more than welcome as well. I think we have a potential of 6 new members coming tomorrow. So come if you'd like.
Is it here?
Right here.
Welcome, everybody, and welcome also to those of you who are in the Zoom church. Good morning. Mimi, we have some opening words, and Mimi's going to share those with us. And if we can get those on the screen, that'd be awesome.
Oh, there, I can read them here. Okay, good. Okay. This is the UUA affirmation regarding sexuality and reproductive justice. Decisions about children, families, and sexuality are some of life's most profound. Our Unitarian Universalist faith holds central the inherent worth and dignity of all people, which includes a belief in the sacredness of all bodies and the importance of self-determination and human agency. As part of a liberatory reproductive justice movement, we affirm our commitment to building a world in which all people are able to make choices about their bodies, their health, and their families within safe, thriving communities. In practice, this commitment looks like working to ensure that people of all identities and experiences have access to affirming, affordable health care, including reproductive care and abortion. People of every age can access comprehensive, sex-positive, fact-based sexuality education. People are empowered and supported to choose when, how, and if they will have children. Our institutions and communities actively work to eradicate sexual violence, abuse, and coercion, and to heal the wounds of such hatred, such harm. That people are supported to make informed, values-aligned decisions about their sexual and reproductive health throughout their lives. We advocate for the ability of all families and communities to realize a sense of wholeness with regard to their sexual and reproductive lives. We create safe and healthy environments for children in our faith communities and campaign publicly for just and compassionate laws for family planning, reproductive and sexual health, and gender identity.
Thank you so much. Our opening music is by Leo Sarfati, and it's My Home, and the words are on your order of service. The word kadosh means holy. Kadosha is a feminine form of holy. Kadosh, 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 Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Ki beiti hu beit tefillah lechol amim. 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 My home is a home of prayer for all people and all nations. My home is a home of prayer for all people and all nations. My home is a home of prayer for all people everywhere. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Kadosha, Kadosha, Kadosha. Ki beiti hu beit tefillah lechol hamim. 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 My home is a home of prayer for all people and all nations. My home is a home of prayer for all people and all nations. My home is a home of prayer for all people Liz, good morning. Would you like to light the chalice for us? Thank you. We light this chalice today for reproductive freedom and justice. We light this chalice to honor the memory of our foremothers who died before abortion rights were secured in this country. We light this chalice to honor the courage of our foremothers and forefathers who fought and won the right to safe and legal abortions and for the protection of LGBTQ plus people to live, marry, and raise families free from persecution. And we light this chalice today to affirm the promise that though our work is yet unfinished and our courage is still needed to overcome the patriarchal and heterosexist hegemony currently espoused in some of the highest echelons of our society, we will one day again say that universal rights for the protections of women's choice and for LGBTQ plus safety and freedom are inalienable rights. rights.
Olam chesed yibaneh, Olam chesed yibaneh, Olam chesed Olam chesed I will build this world from love. And you must build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love. Olam chesed yibaneh, Olam chesed
Rabbi Creditor wrote that song after 9/11. I'd like to begin my talk today with another statement by the UUA affirming reproductive rights. As Unitarian Universalists, we embrace the reproductive justice framework, which espouses the human right to have children, not to have children, to parent the children one has in healthy environments, and to safeguard bodily autonomy, and to express one's sexuality freely. So while the title of my talk is Reproductive Rights and Freedom, a Jewish Value, I want to point out it is also clearly a UU value. So a bit of context from the Hebrew scriptures, since you have a rabbi in your pulpit today. The Torah portion called Mishpatim means rules, but not just any rules. Those would be chokim, as you all know, laws that are just laws, and that you figure out how to enact and how to prosecute. The rules we read about in Parshat or portion Mishpatim are framed contextually. Mishpatim is the sixth portion in the book we call Shemot, which means names, and in the Greek is called Exodus, meaning departure. So Rabbi Nancy Fuchs-Kramer suggests we contextualize the rules in Mishpatim in terms of the collective story of our exodus from Egypt, a story of movement from slavery to freedom, and of our individual stories, implied by the Hebrew title of the book, Shmot, Names. Rabbi Shai Held has written that, quote, one of the Torah's central projects is to turn memory into empathy and moral responsibility, end quote. Another UU value. We Jews remember the Exodus in every service we pray, which for some of us is 3 times a day. We remember the Exodus all the time because that will hopefully inspire us to continue to keep enacting it. In Mishpatim, we are instructed to, quote, remember the stranger because you were strangers in the land, end quote. We're also instructed not to oppress the orphan, the widow, or the stranger, again, because we were strangers in the land. So some form of this commandment appears 36 times in the Hebrew scriptures, which is quite unusual because most commandments appear at most twice. There are 613, by the way, not just 10. The Torah focuses on the orphan and the widow because in the biblical period, these were two classes of people who might have no one to look out after them. Women in the Torah were under the protection of a father, a brother, or a husband. When that male protector was no more, she became an almanah, a woman cut adrift. So how does she eat? Where does she live? As we know, women couldn't even have bank accounts until the 20th century in many places. And so this is also true for orphans. Think of the roughly 150,000 homeless kids on the streets in America today without anyone to look after them. They are cut adrift. So according to Torah, each of us should see ourselves as a stranger, but also as an orphan and a widow. And so this is the context of mishpatim, to see ourselves in these roles in order to grow our compassion and our capacity to act on it. Later in the Torah, we're told that by the way of the use of pronouns. The singular pronoun is used in Hebrew for you shall not wrong the orphan, widow, or stranger. And if you, again, singular pronoun, do wrong them, you, collectively pronoun, will be punished. Right? So I do something wrong, it's on all of us. The choice to observe reproductive freedom Shabbat on Shabbat Mishpatim is grounded in chapter 21, verses 22 through 25. And I'll just say that that was back a few weeks ago in February when we read that Torah portion. But every year on Shabbat Mishpatim, we observe reproductive rights Shabbat. So in chapter 21, verses 22 through 25 in Exodus, it says that, quote, when men fight and one of them pushes a pregnant woman and a miscarriage results, but no other damage ensues, the one responsible shall be fined according as the woman's husband may exact from him, the payment to be based on reckoning. And then here's the part that you'll recognize. But if other damage ensues, the penalty shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, burn for burn, wound for wound, bruise for bruise, quote unquote. We don't think that the rabbis ever actually enacted this penalty, but that's what it says, right? So what's going on here? The Torah says that a fine needs to be paid when two men fighting cause a woman to miscarry. It's like, where is she going with this? Because we're talking about reproductive rights. The implication in verse 23 is that the fine would be heavier if other damage ensues, such as the woman becoming somehow maimed or, God forbid, losing the baby in the accident. For the Torah, this is not about a baby being lost. Here we go, we're getting there. This is not about a baby being lost, as much as that might be the cause of the suffering for the woman and her partner, right? But this is really because there is no baby yet according to Jewish law. An embryo and a fetus are considered water in the Talmud, which is the Jewish compendium of law. They don't become a baby until the head or one half of the body has emerged from the birth canal. Hence, abortion is and always has been a permitted possibility in Jewish law and Jewish culture, so long as it is the only way to protect the mother. In fact, a fetus, this is so interesting, a fetus is actually considered a rodef, a pursuer, when it's threatening the life of the mother. Before that, a fetus is considered a limb of the mother, like a regel, a leg. In the case of the mother becoming ill while pregnant, you save the mother to save the limb, the fetus as well. And if you can only save one, you save the mother. There are questions and issues that have to do with reproductive rights beyond a possible miscarriage, many of which the ancients couldn't ever have fathomed. For example, when eggs and sperm are fertilized in a petri dish for use in vitro semination, or when eggs are harvested to determine if they have any genetic problems and then are used to be artificially inseminated, can we just toss the ones that we're not using? Can we toss the ones that are genetically problematic? What if the problem is only a potentially low IQ and not a life-threatening disease, or it's a condition like diabetes which can be maintained? Or what if 3 or 4 of the embryos implanted all take, but you only wanted one child? Rabbis are currently actually making these kinds of decisions mostly in the Orthodox movement is where they're being asked these questions, but not exclusively. The conservative and reform movement also look at these questions. And legally, doctors now are permitted to toss the unused eggs and sperm, so far. What if fertilization was the result of rape or incest? God forbid. Abortion in these cases is now illegal in many states, but not all. What about infants born with ambiguous genitalia? Parents can decide on operating on the infant and effectively determining the sex, if not the gender. And I will tell you that some people whose parents made that decision for them at birth made the wrong decision as far as the people themselves are concerned. Or what if the chromosomes indicate that one sex, but the outward appearance is of a different sex? Or what if a person was born obviously male, but feels female? As we know, the rights of these individuals to express themselves as they feel is right for them and to pursue gender-affirming surgery are being challenged, again, in many states. And what are the rights of the producer of the sperm that fertilized an egg, creating an unwanted pregnancy, and the woman carrying that embryo wants to abort? What if parents don't agree about whether or not to abort? What if the woman's or the man's, and I say man's because men can now carry babies to term, right? Because they may still, even though they appear male, may still have female reproductive systems. So what if the woman's or the man's mental health would be compromised by the birth? Does our Torah portion suggest any ways of dealing with these eventualities? And here's a really big question. Is anti-abortion un-Jewish? After Roe v. Wade was overturned, amicus briefs were filed by Jews in several states calling for its reversal precisely because they said it was an infringement on their rights. The arguments being used in these cases, which are still winding their way through the courts, are grounded in the Torah text I shared with you earlier. And what happens to the study of and treatment for such conditions as prostate cancer, erectile dysfunction, and crushed or malformed testicles when we constrict women's reproductive rights? Right now, the United States has joined El Salvador, Poland, and Nicaragua in reducing access to abortion, while most of the rest of the world is increasing women's access to abortion rights. 12 states have a total ban on abortion, and 4 states a ban after the sixth week of pregnancy, which is effectively a ban because many women will not even know that they are pregnant at that point. 4 states have a ban, after 6 weeks, and only 9 states have no gestational bans at all on abortion. By the way, Massachusetts is not one of those. The lack of access to abortion since Dobbs has affected Black and Latino women disproportionately. Last Monday in the New York Times, there was a report on research written up by the National Bureau of Economic Research on how driving distance and appointment availability shaped the effect of abortion bans. The researchers found that while overall 2.8% more babies were born due to the constriction, let me say this again. The researchers found that while overall 2.8% more babies were born due to the constriction to abortion access since Dobbs, white college-educated women only delivered 2% more babies, while Black and Latino women with no college education delivered somewhere over 8% more babies. The study showed that the further away from a clinic one lived, the more likely they became to deliver rather than abort unwanted babies. And yet in the same period, thanks to availability of mail-order abortion medications, the number of abortions has actually risen since Dobbs, and we know this way of getting an abortion in states with bans is under threat. And I'll just say that this past week, as many of us know, in the state of Texas, someone has been arrested now for attempting to do an abortion in a state that doesn't have abortion. So who knows where that case goes. The researchers acknowledge that most women who sought an abortion were, in fact, able to get one since Dobbs, but given the statistics I just quoted from the research and the evidence banning abortions in so many states, and as I said, the attack on doctors who are sending medications through the mail to states where abortions aren't legal anymore, with more bans moving through the legislatures in the states, this is having a chilling effect on women's right to choose. We're living in a time in which LGBTQ+, especially trans and non-binary people, are feeling threatened by state legislatures determining bathroom usage and who can play high school sports on which high school sports teams, by increased violence and intolerance. Also in last Monday's New York Times, an editorial by M. Gesson, who was an immigrant from Russia 4 or 5 decades ago, I happen to know M. Gesson, explained that they lived without a passport for the first 10 years of their lives because the then Soviet Union took away your passport, ergo you were no longer a citizen of any nation in the world when you left the country. So M. Gesson believes that the Trump administration's war on trans people is actually part of their strategy of their war on immigration. They quote, "A country that has pushed one group out of its political community will eventually push out others. The Trump administration's barrage of attacks on trans people can seem haphazard, but as elements of a denationalization project, they fall right into place." In his inaugural address and one of his first executive orders, President Trump asserted that only 2 sexes exist, male and female, established at conception and immutable. Trans people, in other words, do not exist. M. Gesson, who used to go by Masha when I first met them, has a wide-ranging experience as a journalist and as a trans person in modern Russian history, so they know what they're talking about. And so what do we do with all of this? How do we find our voices and our agency to take action to protect the rights of women to choose what happens with their own bodies, and also the rights of LGBTQ+, and especially trans people, to feel protected and safe? So I want to offer 2 things that we can always do, which are to call our congressional representatives to appreciate what they're doing from this fine state of Massachusetts to protect these freedoms. Both our state legislatures as well as our national legislators are firmly in the camps of protecting abortion and LGBTQ rights. And so it's important to let them know that we want them to keep doing that and fighting hard. And I don't know if any of you saw last week, it was Markey, right? Markey's support for the trans woman. Keating, thank you. It was Keating's support for the trans woman in Congress, who was being referred to as Sir and Mr. And Keating got up in the Congress and said that is just not okay. So again, calling our state reps and senators is really, really important right now. Obviously, also. Contributing to organizations that are working to protect our rights in these areas is really important. The National Council of Jewish Women became one of the top organizations to which Matt and I, my husband and I, started to give money when Dobbs went into effect, because they were not just they were not just working on advocacy, and they were not just working on getting women abortions. They were working on getting women abortions by providing them with transportation, places to stay in other states, and ways home again. Now, as I learned recently, there's not data on how many people actually use those services, but they were working on those, and they are also working on advocacy. We can also boycott states with bans on abortion and states that are unsafe for trans people, not just refusing to travel or spend money in those states, but letting Governors DeSantis and Abbott know why we're not going to Florida and Texas. It doesn't work to boycott if they don't even know that you're not coming, but you were gonna come. You gotta tell them. You gotta tell them. And Florida and Texas are 2 of the 15 states with negative overall policy tallies, according to the Movement Advancement Project, which maps state policies about LGBTQ issues on their harmfulness toward LGBTQ plus people. And of course, this is an activist community, and so you probably have way more ideas and recommendations for actions to take that I encourage you to share during coffee hour. But there's something else I want to recommend before I close. So I want to say that when I become despairing over the state of this nation at this moment, Steve and I were talking before the service, and I feel like I'm in Chelm, which we say where everything is upside down, and you know what you think is right is now wrong, right? Dr. Seuss must have a book for this too, but in Judaism we call it Chelm. I want to remind myself that what my tradition teaches, one of the things my tradition teaches is that while the work of healing this world is not done, it is still my responsibility to do what I can to help heal this broken world. And I know that one of the things that I can do is be grateful and be kind and be thankful when I'm talking to my husband, who for the 1,000th time in our relationship has not wiped the counter of the crumbs in the morning. I can be kind. I can be kind. Oh, Liz knows all about that. I can be kind. She used to work with him. I can be kind to the person in front of me who seems to be taking forever to get through the checkout line, and yet I really have to be somewhere. I can be kind and grateful to people who are doing things for me, helping me, who I just see on the street. I can just smile and show I'm a human being. We can all do that. Be a human being. We call it a mensch in Judaism. Be a mensch when we go out into the world. I can do that. I can be generous and loving to those who I perceive as being on the other side of issues from me, whatever that might mean. I can nurture with positive reinforcement and with donations. These are ways each of us really, really has the capacity to heal some piece of this broken world. And so may we be blessed with the support of community and friends, family and others to do what we can to bring light and love into this sometimes very dark world. Just take a few moments in meditation. send around the baskets for an offering now. Let's sing together. If you'd like to rise, you're welcome to. It's number 109 in the hymnal. As we come marching, marching. Some of us know this as Bread and Roses.
As we come marching, marching in the beauty of the day, a million darkened kitchens, 1,000 workshops gray, are touched with all the radiance that a sudden sun discloses. For the people hear us singing, bread and roses, bread and roses. As we come marching, marching, we battle too for men, for they are women's children, and we mother them again. Our lives shall not be sweated from birth until life closes. Hearts starve as well as bodies. Give us bread, but give us roses. As we come marching, marching, unnumbered women dead go crying through our singing their ancient song of bread. Small art and love and beauty, their drudging spirits new. Yes, it is bread we fight for, but we fight for roses too. As we come marching, marching, we bring the greater days. The rising of the women means the rising of the race. No more the drudge and idler tend that toil where one reposes, but a sharing of life's glories, bread and roses, bread and roses. But a sharing of life's glories, bread and roses, bread and roses.
You may be seated. Betsy, we have somebody with us today whose work is in this field, and I'm just wondering if you'd like to share a few words about what your work is, what you do, and here on this island. Would you be willing to do that? I'd love that. Thank you. Oh, come on up here. Yeah, well, Zoom has to hear it too. Thank you. I know I'm putting you on the spot, but we were very blessed that Betsy came to the synagogue when we also talked about reproductive rights earlier this year, and so she has so much to offer this topic. I'd love for you to share it with us.
So I'm Betsy Edge. I work at Health Imperatives. Many of you here probably still know us as Family Planning, but we are a sexual and reproductive health clinic. We provide well woman care, gynecological care. We provide support for the LGBTQI community. We do gender hormone affirming therapy for trans folks. We've recently started providing medication abortions for people, and hopefully maybe at some point be able to offer surgical abortions too, but not right now. We provide PrEP and PEP for people at risk of HIV. We have a harm reduction center so people can come and exchange syringes and get safe products for use. And we work tirelessly to support reproductive justice. It was very hard for me not to cry through this whole thing. It is my life's work to provide reproductive justice for everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Let me say one quick thing. Family planning was born in this church. This church was looking at social justice issues, and that's where it popped up. So we're a big part of it.
I think those are closing words. Our last song is written by Kohenet Batya Diamond, and I want to say that a carillon is a bell tower. I hope you'll join us. I think you're going to want to stand for this one. It's a pretty powerful song.
This is not a song of surrender. This is not a funeral march, but a ripple in a well, the echo of a bell, tolling from the trouble in my heart. Feels like the world is winding backwards. All around us winds of anger blow. The river's rising quickly, too deep to wade to safety. Now get on board, let's everybody row. We won't go back to Babylon, where we were forced to sing. May we become a carillon. A carillon. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. This is not a song of hallelujahs. Some truths are not self-evident at all. Many voices with one cry, it's my body, I decide. We rock the boat, we rise and will not fall. We won't go back to Babylon, where we were forced to sing. May we become a carillon. A carillon. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring. Let freedom ring.
Thank you all so much for having me again in your pulpit. It is always such a delight for me. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm grateful to my friend, my partner, the person who makes me think I know how to sing, Kohenet Batya Diamond. By the way, that song for much of the Jewish community has become an anthem for women's rights. Thank you all so much.